Alright, welcome to a new video. This one will be much more complex than the sets video. Here we're going to create a function that will scale up ratios. Scale up, not ib. Ratios that we give it, okay? So we're going to start building the function. We could welcome the user. We could say, welcome to the scaling, my goodness, scaling up calculator. And then the user will see that. I think that's kind of cute. It doesn't really matter. It doesn't do anything apart from that. Look, if I run my function, scale up, then that will be all you see for now, because we haven't built anything yet. Let's build more stuff here. We're going to scale up the ratio, so we need two quantities. Quantity 1 and quantity 2. Okay? We're going to let the user input the value of the quantity. And I don't know if you've seen my first video, but there are many, but essentially two types of numbers in Python. We could ask for an integer. This will only allow whole numbers. Or we could ask for a float. That could also allow decimal numbers. I think it's safer to go for a float, so the program will not crash if the user inputs 1.5. Inputs, and then we can give instructions. Please enter the first quantity, my typing is wrong, of your ratio, and by default colon space and then close the quotation marks. And now because I opened two parentheses, I need to close two parentheses, okay? And I'm going to copy and paste this chunk on my second quantity so I don't have to type it again. Okay, so we got our two initial quantities, so we can print out the ratio. We can use what we call an f string. An f string will be f, and then your ratio is, and then we open curly brackets, we say quantity 1, close it, and, or 2, better because we're operating ratios, 2 quantity 2, and then let me close my marks and close my parentheses. And now let me run the function so you can see what we've got so far. So it welcomes us. I should capitalize it, W, and then let's run it again. I need to run it first. Okay, so my first ratio is going to be, my first quantity is going to be 4, second is going to be 5. Well, your ratio is 4 to 5. Okay, cool, yeah. But that's not enough, right? Because we want to scale it up. So we need to keep building. We need to keep building stuff. Now the next part, let me run it again. No, let's just leave it like that. The next part will be a little bit tricky. We're going to use something called a while loop. And we're going to say while true, while all of these things are true, the things that we're going to input, I want you to try, this is very complicated, okay? Scale factor. We're going to introduce a scale factor. Scale factor. And as you can imagine, we want the user to input the factor. So I'm going to use exactly the same structure that I've used before for my quantities. I will say floats, input, and now I will say, please enter a scaling factor. But now listen, I am going to limit my function to scaling up. It can only scale up because, I don't know, I just decided so, okay? So the scaling factor has to be greater than 1. Because if you scale a quantity to a number that's less than 1, what you're doing is reducing the quantity, right? You're multiplying for 0.5 and you're dividing by half. That's not what I want, so please enter a scaling factor greater than 1. And then I close it, close my parentheses twice, and I need to check that the user has input a factor greater than 1. So if scale factor is greater than 1, then the program will work, right? Then the program will work. So scale, we need to create two new variables, one for each amount, okay? For each quantity. So we're going to say scaled quantity 1 will equal the first quantity multiplied by, you guessed it, the scale factor, right? And now I will copy and paste this, and I will just change one thing, because I want the same scale factor to apply to quantity 2. Okay, so let's review what we got so far. Welcome. Input your amounts. They can be decimals. That's why we use floats. Then we show the ratio to the user. We could actually change this to a column to make it even more realistic. And we could remove the spaces to make it look like a real ratio. And then, while all of the things that I'm going to write here, and I am going to keep typing things here, are true, I want you to try to get a scale factor from the user, and if you see how many conditionals there are here, if this is true, try this. If this thing that you've tried is greater than 1, then you can proceed with the operations. You can scale up the factor, okay? And then I want the user to see the new ratio. So I'm going to say print, and I'm going to use an F string again. F, the new ratio is, and then curly brackets, and you guessed it. Now I'm not going to use the original quantities. I am going to use the scaled quantities now. So the new ratio will be scaled quantity 1, close it, colon, open another one, scaled quantity 2, close it, close the quotation marks, and close the parentheses. Okay, cool. So if the program works, I want the user to input the scaling factor. If that scaling factor is greater than 1, then I want that scaling factor to multiply both of my original quantities. If all of that happens, then I will show the new ratio, okay? But, well, and then break. What are you talking about, break? If all of this happens, because this is a loop, while all of this happens, run the program, and then if everything is successful, get out of the program. Enough. We're done. Everything worked. We don't have to go through the loop again. However, there's a possibility that, and we're going to go here at the same level as if. You see how the tabs matter a lot, okay? The indentation matters a lot. So I want to try this, and then if scaling factor is greater than 1, run the program. Else, I want the user. What does this else mean? It's very connected to this if. So if the scaling factor is greater than 1, all of this will happen. If not, then I will want the user to say to input a scaling factor greater than 1. So I will print. Please make sure that your scaling factor is greater than 1. because that means that the user, if I go to else, if this doesn't work and I have to go to else, that means that this quantity, this scaling factor has not been, the one that has been provided is not greater than 1. Alright, cool. So we're almost done here. There is another thing that goes together with try. And try is right here, right? Try is at this indentation right here. So I want the program to try all of these things except, and this is kind of tricky, value error. Except value error. What does that mean? Well, that would mean that this input here is not a float. That is a possibility. We need to address all the possible problems here. So one of the problems could be that the scaling factor is not greater than 1. And we address that problem by this conditional, by this else. We will keep coming to this else until the user inputs a scaling factor greater than 1. But there is another possible problem, which is that the user does not input a float at all. The user might input the letter A, which is a value error. We're looking for a certain value, we're looking for a float, and we're getting a letter. We don't want that. If that happens, we need to tell the user, we need to print, please enter a decimal number. No, just enter either an integer or a decimal number. And I think that now we're done with all the issues that could happen to our program. It is a lot. It is a lot. And then there's only one thing left to do, which is calling the function. Okay, calling it. We need to call scale up. So scale up, and then, you know, guys, when you're playing a game and then you click on a file and it's the name of the file .exe, E-X-E, that means executable, that you can execute that file. This 2 little parentheses here will make this file, this program, executable. Okay, so now let's see if it works. Okay, it welcomes me, so far so good. Please enter your ratio. Let's keep it simple, 3 and 4. Okay, my ratio is 3 to 4. Cool. Scaling factor, let's double it. Oh, wait, no. Let's try the errors. I would say 0.8. I am going to introduce a scaling factor of less than 1. And now, because of this else statement, the program takes me here. And it tells me, no. Make sure that your scaling factor is greater than 1. Well, how about my scaling factor is b? Value error. Please enter either an integer or a decimal number. Okay, well, let's push it again. How about this is my scaling factor? No, it has to be an integer or a decimal number. 4.5. Wait, what? It broke. Quantity is not defined. Quantity is not defined. What do you mean quantity is not defined? Sorry guys, I seem to have a problem here. It might be a typo. Oh, this is the problem. I want to multiply quantity 1 and quantity 2, not just quantity, okay? Let's do it again. Let's do it fast. My ratio is 2 to 3. My scaling factor is 1.5. Okay, my new ratio is 3 to 4.5. It has multiplied both quantities by 1.5. Now, if you want to, you can try to build a similar program, but instead of scaling up, make it scaling down. And if you get it, please show it to me, okay? I know that this was a lot of information, but you can pause the video, look at my code, and try to replicate it. All right, have fun.